Hello everyone and welcome. I am going to be doing a tutorial today. I've been intending to do tutorials for, well, ever since I started this channel, but I've always found one reason or another. I always second guess myself or just, forget because I get carried away with coloring. So today's tutorial is going to be really simple. This is perfect for colorists who maybe want to start learning how to shade. And just if you're kind of curious about my coloring process, I do what I call lazy shading. I usually only use two colors for an element. So for example, when I do leaves, I do a dark green and a light green, and this is how I've always done it. If I'm feeling really fancy and committed, I will do three colors, and if I'm feeling super duper, into it, I'll do three colors, and then I'll do enhancements with another color, but that only happens if I have the patience, because a lot of times I won't work on something if it takes too long. Which, anyways, so I feel like I have improved over the years with this way that I shade. So I did want to show a few examples of what it looks like my two color shading. So pretty sure everything on both of these spreads were done with just two colors. So the leaves were only two colors, flowers were only two colors, and same for this. This one I was going for a more subtle effect for some of the leaves, so it's not as obvious, the blending, but it is there. It's very soft. I've found this works with pretty much every pencil. Some pencils require a little bit more layering when you're using this technique. So I want to show an example with Polychromos. So this is what this coat I did with Polychromos with just two colors, and I also did the hat, which is hard to pick up on the hat, but this coat is done with just two colors, and same with the tree. So, and as far as picking a light source, I either usually will just shade where elements are overlapped by something else, or with this flower, this goes dark to light, or if I'm usually I've noticed I will always shade if I'm shading from a light source. For some reason I always put my shadows on the bottom or on the right, and then it's lighter on the left. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm left-handed. I don't know. But anyway, so I want to show you with a couple of different pencils. I feel like it works the best with Prismacolors just because it's super soft. It also works really well with Luminance, but those ones are a lot softer. So I think they're softer than Prismacolors even. So it's one where I would recommend burnishing the lighter color with a different pencil, unless you want to, wear down your luminance really fast. So I'm going to just show on this flower. I'm using Dahlia Purple and Lavender Prismacolor. So one thing that I've learned is I want to pick colors that are usually darker than what I think I need and lighter than what I think I need. I use this combination a lot because I think it looks really nice. So I start out with pretty firm pressure, and then I fade it out. So I go lighter as I get further away from my shadows, and I usually will use small circular motions when I am blending that color out. And I will show you this closer up before I put this pencil in. And I know like another way that you could do this is to use a white pencil, but I have found sometimes that makes it look murky. So I try to go with the lightest of that color family, or even like, you know, use colors like if I'm going from red to a lighter color, I will use yellows or oranges as the lightest part. So I will do one more petal just to kind of show. So I do a lot of small little circles and I just kind of layer it up, and yeah, I just make it fade out and just get lighter and lighter with pressure, and the circular motion just helped that become a smoother transition. Okay, so now that I've done that, I want to bring it up closer so you can see what it looks like. So that's what it looks like before I put the second color on. And I have found that the direction that I do shade next kind of makes the element either lighter or darker. So if I go from here to here, the lighter color tends to shine more, but if I go from dark to light, it pulls more of this dark color out this way. And that's why this works really well with Prismacolor, because it's so soft of a pencil that it pulls the pigment in whatever direction you want it to go. So I do want to demonstrate that. I will do from light to dark and then dark to light. I usually will not put full pressure on the lightest part, and if the white of the paper shows through after doing that, then I will go in and burnish it with something else, or you know, with white, just that part. And then the further or the closer that I get to this darker color, the more pressure I use. And I use circular again because it helps blend it. And I also will just do like lines. I don't know if that makes sense. It's not really like flicking, it's just pushing the pencil pigment in the direction that I want it to go. Okay, so that's from light to dark. And then this is dark to light. And I start out harder so I can burnish this darker color down, because I want that shadow to be completely dark, and then just get lighter as I go out and build it up and leave highlight. And it's a little hard to tell on camera, but there is a bit of a difference. This one has more of the dark purple, and it's easier to tell when you're working on a smaller space. It's like this. Yeah. So this petal was light to dark and this was dark to light. Doesn't look as different, but these two do look a little bit more different. It's something that's really subtle and it's not as noticeable on certain things. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. Okay, now I want to show with Polychromos, because Polychromos require a little bit more layering in order to get the shadow to come out. So it just requires more buildup. Because if I don't build it up, then it just comes out like not looking as contrasting as I want it to. But I really like Polychromos because I feel like because it's a harder pencil, it's easier to get a smooth blend. It's also easier to do blending with 3 colors because it requires more buildup, so you're not gonna lose a lot of the integrity of the paper as long as you don't, push extremely hard. Like right now, I'm pushing pretty hard because this is my darkest and I don't want any of the green to come down into this area of the lighter green. And when I'm doing the edges of things, I like to use the side of the pencil. I feel like it gives me more control. And then when I'm blending larger spaces, I like my pencil leads to be duller. When I'm working on smaller spaces, I do prefer them to be sharp, but on bigger spaces, I've found that like just a little duller than this tends to blend a little easier. So right now I'm like barely putting any pressure, just like barely putting any any pigment onto the paper. Now with Polychromos, it doesn't matter as much what direction you go because it's a harder pencil and you layer up differently, whereas with Prismacolor the wax makes the pigment move with whatever pencil you're using because it picks up some of that wax when you're using lighter color. But usually I start with the lightest just so I kind of have an idea, and then I'll work on the middle area that's kind of the blending transition and just layer it up with small circles again. And if I want a brighter color, I'll just keep adding more pressure and layers to build up that saturation. Okay, so this is what the Polychromos looks like, and those 2 pencils are probably my shortest Polychromos because this is like my go-to leaf combination. And I apologize if I haven't been talking loud enough. I know I have a really quiet voice, so I apologize. Okay, so I want to show blending with 3 colors, and I forgot to sharpen this red, so sorry about that. I tried to have everything ready. And I don't know, I just wanted to start out with kind of a more simple tutorial just to like kind of, work our way up to more complicated things, because like the most basic thing is knowing how to shade and blend colors. So we have a dark red. So this is, oh, I forgot to tell you the Polychromos that I used: deep cobalt green and light green. So the Prismacolors are Crimson Lake, Permanent Red, and Yellowed Orange. So this works a little bit differently. I will only work from dark to light. So I'll start with the darkest, and then when I take my medium tone, I will start from the bottom and go out. And then the lightest, I usually will start from the lightest point of what I'm coloring and bring it down. because I found if I do all three going the same direction with Prismacolor, the medium color tends to take over and you lose that lighter color. With Polychromos, again, it doesn't matter as much because you're not pulling as much of the color, but just because of habit, I still do it that way, where I do the two medium and then I start from the lightest and blend it down. So I will show you on this funky flower right here. So right now I'm putting the most pressure that I use and just building it up and fading it out again. So this is where I usually will stop or even lower with the darkest. And then I'll go in with the medium. And I don't use as much of the medium grade as I do the dark and the light. Otherwise you lose that transition. So again, I just started with the dark part with the medium tone and just very softly, I probably used medium to soft pressure. Now I'm going to take the yellow and medium pressure, blend it down into this red. Just like, I love this combination because it's really fiery. It's a nice fiery red. So I'm gonna just show it a couple more times. So small circles, stop about right there. So I would say about a third for the dark, and then only like a quarter up is where you bring the medium tone and you bring it down into the dark, or you start down in the dark and go only maybe a quarter of the way up with medium pressure, and then you fade it out, and then again start at the tip, bring it down. And one thing that I really like about this technique too is this lighter color, because I will go all the way down just because it helps to burnish that darker color. It doesn't brighten it as much as you think it will, but it does help burnish, and that way you don't have to go in and burnish with a white or a burnishing pencil. I've just found, for me personally, I don't like the look of what Prismacolors look like when they're burnished with white. Some things I will, if it's a light color, I will burnish with white, but I should show you what my white Prismacolor pencil looks like, just to demonstrate how little I use this pencil. I have had this set for several years, and yeah, it just compared to my other pencils, it's barely used. I mean, because I have so many pencils, here I have some pencils that I use all the time and some that I don't use as often. So I'm trying to, there's that one, yeah. Like this blue I use all the time, so I barely use my white. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful, and maybe you learned a different technique. I also want to add, I don't think I have really ever gone light to dark when I'm using colored pencil. If I'm using watercolors, I will go from light to dark, but with pencil, I had a professor who insisted that going from light to dark with Prismacolor was the wrong way to do things, and I did it once where I was like, oh, I want the shadow to be darker, so I went over with a darker color, and he treated like he pointed it out immediately, and I was like, oh, great, well, I don't know. But anyways, so I also use this same technique. Here, I wanted to show just a couple other examples. Like right here. For everything, I only used 2 colors for shading everything, except for the background I used 3 colors. And yeah, so that's the other reason I like going from dark to light, is the light helps burnish the paper, and you don't get, I feel like you don't get as much wax bloom when you're only using 2 colors versus the 3. I feel like you will run that risk more. And then I also wanted to show that technique also works with watercolor pencils and Inktense. Usually when I'm using Inktense and watercolor pencils, I will only use 2 colors for an element as well. So yeah, everything on here was 2 colors. So it's just, yeah, it's good enough for me. I know some people, you know, they just are really amazing and patient with, you know, shading and adding all these cool extra colors, which I'm trying to do on a picture that I'm working on right now, which I'll show. So this one is like when I'm trying to be fancy. So this frog, I used 3 different colors, and then I went in with this really bright green and I added that in the highlighted areas. But the mushroom is only 2 colors. Those little mushrooms, it's only 2 colors. So a lot of times I feel like it, you know, serves its purpose for me. Anyways, I will end this tutorial here. I hope it was helpful for someone, and let me know in the comments what other types of tutorials you would like to see. I do have plans to show how I do metals and skin tones, and I also want to do some tutorials on how I use Inktense. But if you have any other requests, let me know and I will definitely put those in the queue on what to make videos of. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Happy coloring!